Hello and welcome to another episode of an Unexpected Podcast. My name is Tim, and with me as always, we have Matt, Rob, and Rainier. On this week's episode, kind of a different one. We're going to be going over a list by Vincent Glickman, and then we're going to kind of be going over the new profile for the Easterlings, the Easterling Emperor. Just kind of going over the profile of what they've told us so far. Any thoughts we have, what we think might happen, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll move into that first. So Rob, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So today we have a 700-point list from Vincent Glickman, and this is a fun list. So at its core, it's a Dale Lothlorien alliance, which actually you don't see very often, so that makes it interesting to begin with. But it clearly has a very strong theme. Now, I don't know if this theme also carries into some kind of like conversion or modeling, but he's essentially representing the region of Dorwinion with his Dale models, and Dorwinion, fairly obscure, but it's essentially the wine growing region between Mirkwood and the river running. So in that kind of Iron Hills to Mirkwood to Lake Down area, and it extends a little bit towards almost the Easterling Sea, right? And it's known for its wine because I guess where you would most hear about it is that Thranduil would get Dorwinian wine and then send it down the river, the empty barrels, and that was kind of the whole trade between Lake Down and Mirkwood. So it's a fun little nod to that. And then his elves are themed to the Avari, which are the elves that never left Middle Earth and never took the journey. So think of elves like Tariel. Basically, they're the townies, they're the natives that have been in those forests and never left. So they're still elves, but they're considered kind of less wise and more dangerous, so to speak. And it makes sense that those would be the elves that the Dorwinian folk would be allied with, if anyone, because it's in the same region. So it's a fun little concept. Now, as a list, it is led by King Brand, the new Dale hero of legend, and he's leading 13 warriors of Dorwinion / Dale, 5 with shield, 7 with spear and shield, 1 with a banner and shield. The second warband is led by Bard II, which is the hero of valor for the Garrison of Dale army list, and he has 10 Knights of Dorwinion, i.e. Knights of Dale. And then the allied contingent of Lothlorien is led by Celeborn with sword and heavy armor, and he is leading 11 Wood Elf warriors with a spear. So you essentially have a battle line of Dale that is supported by the Fight 5 of the Wood Elves. Now, I don't want to savage this list too much because it's clearly trying to stick to a theme, but the ways that immediately jump out to me to tighten it are that there are just no bows in the list, which seems a shame because you have access to elf bows in both contingents, so they actually have fairly strong shooting. And at least on the elf portion, you could stand to give bows to some of the wood elves. Now, you could either drop a single wood elf to pay for that, or I might consider downgrading Celeborn to Haldir. I actually think that he gives you about the same what you want. You already have 2 decent combat heroes, so you're not losing as much by getting rid of Celeborn, and Haldir is still a good fighter, and he gives you some extra bow fire as well. And then you still have that kind of elf line behind your Knights of Dale. And then the same thing for the Dale contingent, just to add a few bows in there to give this a little bit of ranged, because you've got a predominantly D5 army, you've got a lot of D3 with the Wood Elves, so you're going to want to have a little ranged firepower, and you also want to be able to bring people to you because those Knights of Dale really want people charging into you with their special rule. So those are kind of my initial thoughts. I think it's really fun. I think that would be an easy way to tighten it a little bit and give it a little bit more bite. Any thoughts on that, guys?
With you, it is 700 points, right?
Yes.
So I'm doing the math right now. It's 37 models. I like your idea with bows because all 3 of your heroes, although they're pretty strong, they're all on foot. Mm-hmm. So your army is going to be kind of like a block moving towards the opponent. And to my understanding, none of them have heroic march, do they?
I don't believe so.
None of them do.
Yeah, so that's going to be like a big ball. 37 models for 700 points is pretty good considering you have elves, but your wood elves are low defense. They can get shot out. A lot of your stuff can get shot out, and your opponent can basically dictate the game even in combat, because none of your heroes are mounted. So that's why I think the bows, like Rob framed it perfectly, they're elf bows in both contingents you can add, which would be really great because right now your opponent has movability over you and shooting over you. You could negate that by making your opponent come to you with good shooting. By what Rob said, add maybe Haldir instead of Celeborn, and then have those extra points to bow people up. But that would be like my suggestion. I love the theme though; it's super cool. I'd be really interested
Yeah.
how if you paint it in like a cool scheme and stuff. Maybe give all the heroes a whole bunch of warning bottles.
I have this idea of like freehanding like vines on shields or something would be really neat, or like little grapes. Would be fun.
Yeah. It is also interesting though because it is kind of like wine villages led by kind of elite troops and elite heroes too. So yeah, again, I do wonder maybe
You got to protect those
bow.
vineyards. The best wine in Middle Earth. Lots of enemies.
That's true. The wine of Middle Earth is the oil of Middle Earth. Everybody wants it, and they're going to protect it.
Why do you think the Easterlings came west? It was to get that wine.
It's true. The whole army that attacked Erebor should have actually gone to Minas Tirith, but they chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Matt, any thoughts?
Tim's like, okay, let's continue.
Yeah. All right, so I mean, a couple thoughts about how this is designed.
I feel like I just got pulled off stage with a hook. Do you or anything?
Yeah, we're all like dancing. They're like, y'all, it closed literally 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. So a couple thoughts about the way this is designed. I mean, I think the way this is supposed to work is that King Bran's warband kind of fights on its own in its own little shield wall with Warriors of Dale with shield in front and with spear behind, and then Bard and his Knights of Dorwinion make up the front rank with the Wood Elves with spear making up the second rank. Is that kind of how this is designed? Because you want, even though your Knights of Dorwinion have spears, I think you want them in the front rank so they get that, that Knights of Dale. If he charges me, I get a +1 to wound bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, I wonder here, because so what the Wood Elf Warriors kind of bring is they bring, for their 11 points, they bring their Elven Cloak. And your Elven Cloak isn't going to be doing any good if what you're doing is standing behind Knights of Dorwinion anyway. So I'm wondering if the way to do this is, instead of saying that Lothlorien is the Avari Elves, say that Halls of Thranduil is the Avari Elves. I mean, because that's actually who they're supposed to be closer to anyway. They're supposed to be up in Mirkwood. And instead of Celeborn, you need either a hero of legend or a hero of valor. You could use Legolas, put him on a horse, or if Legolas is kind of distinctively Legolas. So maybe what you actually want to do is Thranduil, and then instead of putting him on an elk because you got 145 points there, kit him a little differently. Kit him like a normal, elf hero. So give him the heavy armor, give him the horse. Maybe give him the bow. You don't give him the Circlet of Kings because that's distinctively Thranduil. But maybe you give him the additional Elven made sword to give him the extra attacks. But maybe you just don't. Maybe you just give him heavy armor and a horse, and then he's 120 points at that point, and he's still fight 6. He's only got 2 attacks, but he's a decent guy to have on a horse. And then for the same 11 points as your Wood Elf Warriors, I think by the way, I just give him Blade Lord. I might even not put him on a horse, but I mean, it is nice to be able to have a mounted hero. But anyway, give him Blade Lord for the extra 30 points, give him the +1 attack, and maybe just keep him on horse for that, or just dismount him if you really want him to go to town with the extra stuff. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, for the same 11 points that you're, oh no, wait a minute. So the Wood Elf Warriors are 9. So instead of 11 Wood Elf warriors at 9 points a pop with spear, maybe you're going Mirkwood elves with glaives at 11 points a pop. So you got 9 of them to back up Knights of Dorwinian, and you can give bows to some of them. And you're probably gonna have some points left over from Celeborn. You can give some bows to some of them, maybe give some extra wood elves. And then, I wonder if to get a bunch of extra points, you don't change either King Brand, probably King Brand's the guy that you change, to a captain of Dale, and who's going to be half the points once you kit him up, and then just bulk out the warriors in the army so that you're getting up closer to Thranduil. Thranduil can have up to 18 guys, and you can have 12 plus 15, 27 guys in Dale. And I agree, give a bunch of them bows. That's kind of my thought. I don't know what you guys think about that. How many figures was this
37.
before we started munting? 37. So that's a decent
I
number
do
of
like
figures.
what you say though, Matt, because I do feel like you need more shooting and a mounted hero to kind of balance it. And yeah, you could get rid of the expensive King Brand. And then I would just, I don't know, do anything to get more shooting and anything to like possibly get a Thranduil. I think that fixes. Not that it's ruined, and I do see the appeal of cheap fight 5 in the back rank with like the Knights of Dorwinian and stuff like that is a cool appeal. But I think for us, we're just saying like to balance the list, you need a little more oomph like in it, whether it be shooting or mounted or like more warriors.
I get the sense a lot of this was based on theme, right? So like King Brand was clearly meant to represent something, and that's why that's there. I don't see any reason why you couldn't change out Lothlorien for Mirkwood though, unless you just really wanted that wood elf warrior aesthetic, which you couldn't do because the Mirkwood Rangers obviously don't get the no bow limit thing in Yellow Alliance, but yeah, I don't disagree with the suggestions.
I mean, the other problem with the Mirkwood Rangers is they don't get a spear, so they can't sit behind the Knights of Dorwinian. I mean, I actually have to say, from a tactical perspective, I don't think you want Thranduil here as your Elven leader. I think you actually want Legolas, because Legolas on his own brings a lot of bow power to bring people towards you. Because that's it. If you're fighting the Knights of Dorwinian or the Knights of Dale, you want people to charge you, which means you want some shooting to force them to charge you. And Legolas on his own just brings a lot of shooting. He's also cheaper. So, I mean, you could have Legolas on his horse with his gear. Let me see, how much does he come in at? So he's 95. You're not giving him Orcrist, and so he's 105 points. So that saves you 40 points to up your wood. You're probably going to end up with more Mirkwood elves with glaive, and then you could give a third of them bows too, probably with that level of extra points.
I just wonder.
I'd go.
I just wonder, and I know this probably doesn't fit with the theme. So the first thing I noticed when I looked at this list was they didn't give Celeborn a shield. Is that some kind of thematic thing, or you think he just missed out on that? Because
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say if Vincent, if you really want to take Celeborn and it doesn't break the theme, I would definitely add the shield just to go into defense 7. One idea I had, which again I don't know if it goes against, it probably does go against the theme, was maybe Galadriel, just because she gives the blinding light, and then you can take more troops, and then that kind of gives you a magic user to help out your heroes, protect your troops to get in.
Oh, are you saying instead of Celeborn?
Yeah, instead of Celeborn. Yeah, save 15, 20 points, do that. Add a couple more troops. You could probably add some, like you said, the archers. I think we're all in agreement on that. Maybe go up to like 39, with blinding light, and combine that with a magic user and two not bad hitters at 700 points, I think would do relatively well. But it depends on if you want to, break that lore of a female being.
Yeah, I was going to say hard to argue how that would work with theme.
Well, that's the problem, right? So if you're trying to make this pure theme, then it doesn't work. But if you just want it to be close in theme, like kind of a mixture between the two, where you kind of get theme but also playability, then maybe that might be an option. But I definitely think Matt's route of Legolas might be better, but I really like the idea of the Wood Elves in this list, because I think that their versatility with being able to shield, you add a bow to them, and even though they're expensive for those points, that's what they're there to do. They're there to back up, to shield, and to shoot. So they kind of serve that role really well. And then, of course, the aesthetic of them.
Well, and especially if you're going to add in Galadriel with the blinding light, that's actually playing into it even more, because it protects them from shooting, and that's their big thing, right? So if you are going to use them in the battle line, maxing out as many strength 3 bows as you can and putting it behind a blinding light bubble, then they really have to come to you, right? So, and that's really playing into the tactic you're going for. Though again, I'm not entirely sure how much Vincent is attached to the specific theme, or if he already has specific models in mind for it. So you, I guess, have to kind of make that determination for yourself, right?
Yeah, I do like the idea of Knights of Dale with elves behind them. That's kind of an interesting, because then it's the I've got my 2 ranks of fight 5 and a +1 to wound on the front rank if you charge me.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to keep the theme and also take some of our changes, I would just take Celeborn, Haldir without armor, so you can keep the theme. They look like they're lowly elves.
Yeah.
Put bows on as many elf warriors as you can, keep the spears on them, and then max out the bows on the Garrison of Dale contingent. And I think that will keep the exact same thing you have. Everything is just changing one hero. That would be my suggestion if we're going down the route you really, really, really want that theme.
Yeah.
Be nice to figure out a way to get March in it, though.
Yeah, the problem is the hero aspect, where you have to have at least,
you could take out King Brand and just replace him with a captain. I agree. That's definitely a way to go. The only problem there is you got to make sure, because that decreases your warrior slots.
Yeah.
You're probably still going to have enough slots to do what you want, but
I think because right now, if you do that, you have to negate 1 warrior from that warband, but then you have 5 extra in the Prince of the Vine Courts, and then you have 4 extra if you even just bring Haldir. So I think it'd be okay. You could actually add, 8 or 9 more models from 37, which would give you 40 something.
Wait, how did we get there? I lost track of the
so if you switch King Brand for just a lonely captain, right now King Brand is leading 13, -1 because you can only lead 12, and then the Prince of the Vine Court Bard II is leading 10. He technically can lead 15, so that's 5 more, -1, so 4, and then the allied contingent has 11. You can add 4 more, so that's 8 more models, I guess, then.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Even with the captain.
Yeah, and that might be more gameplay wise. That'll help you win more if you did that, to make it more balanced as well. But let us know, Vincent, if you make any changes, or what you do with the list, and if you end up playing with it, how you do with it. We're gonna go over the new Easterling model now. Obviously, I think everybody is pretty much in agreement that the model is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this over to Rainier first, because he always talks about how much he loves evil men. So Rainier, when you first saw this, what are your thoughts? And then after looking over the article, what are your thoughts about the way that they've described it so far?
I almost passed out, to be honest. I think so. There's basically I have some friends in my group that we're all Easterling fanatics, and we have our own chat and stuff. We literally, you could see the screen spazzing when this came out. I think this is everything you want. It is amazing. And I was a player of the Golden King back in the day, Aberkan Golden King, and I feel like they destroyed that in the new edition. And then even with the FAQs, they're oh, it's on the floor. Let's kick it again. This looks like no one brought it. Let's make sure absolutely no one brings it, even in fun like games.
Wait, there was one guy who brought it. Let's make sure he never does it again.
Yeah. What I love about the Eastern Realms in general is first is aesthetic and second is gameplay. They offer something that's different. I think with the aesthetic, this is amazing. Who is it? The new heroes, the female
Rutabi and Borgir.
Rutabi and Borgir.
Rutabi just looks like an Easterling captain with a cape. Like, let's be honest. Although the profile is amazing, this Emperor's mask is like freaking crazy. Like it's on the screen right now, and I'm already getting excited. Like it's amazing. It's a great.
And look at that.
Yeah, look at that. It looks like something that's like out of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my God, it's Shredder.
You're not really
it looks like Shredder.
Rainier, you're not really selling me here.
No, but it's amazing. Like you can tell that this Easterling is like the emperor of all the other Easterlings. So aesthetic is amazing. Play style too. They kind of gave us some hints, but with the base of that thing, and it has 6 warriors that can basically dismount and fight. We were debating it before the podcast started. Like, is this guy going to have 9 attacks? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And battlefield-wide rules, like it's just amazing. It's what the Easterlings like. It's gonna push them over the top. Not to be super competitive, but it's gonna make them like up there in the competitive field. Because like we've talked about it, you can get the Easterlings wherever you want. You can position, and like now this just plays to that tactically. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to bring this up because I've always heard debates over this. Now, a lot of people really don't like the Easterling aesthetic, and then a lot of people really do like the Easterling aesthetic. Are you guys a fan of the gold armor, the way it's done with the red and then the black? Is that something you guys have liked from the movies, from the miniatures themselves, or is it not really your cup of tea?
I love it, to be honest. The armor looks like dragon scales, so that's like because they come from the East and stuff. And they are called the Glittering Horde in the books, and they do wear scarlet. So I like it. The helmets look goofy to some people. I think they look amazing too, because it also, again, looks like a dragon, like the wings. So I personally am a huge fan. I mean, that's one of the ways the Easterlings appealed to me, even as a kid watching the movies. It was just like, oh, whoa, like those guys look super cool.
Who are these people who don't like the Easterling aesthetic? And where are they? What are their names so we can ridicule them?
Yeah.
I hear it a lot with British people, like in the British groups.
Yeah, I've seen.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, they also like mushy peas. So I mean,
that's true. I'm not gonna lie, a good mushy pea though. Don't hate it. So
I've never encountered one, so I can't tell you. I've encountered many mushy peas. I've just never encountered good ones. Anyway,
that's probably true. I'm actually with you, Rainier. I absolutely love the aesthetic. For me, so Games Workshop has really kind of leaned into more of the East Asian mythology for the Easterlings. For me, I always kind of in my headcanon thought of them a little bit more like Persian Empire. And so the way they were in the movies, they kind of looked like immortals, right? Like stylized fantasy immortals with their scaled armor and their, their red cloaks and those face masks that cover their face. And I absolutely love it. And I'm primarily a good player, but Easterlings have long been, especially aesthetically, like my favorite evil army. And so this definitely doesn't disappoint.
I always envisioned them as the Seleucid Empire, since they have cataphracts and pikes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of their aesthetics too. I do have to say, I played a game with Rutabi and Borgir, and the two of them on the table improved the Easterling army in a way that I frankly hadn't expected.
Mm-hmm.
That goes beyond. It's not just their capabilities. I mean, although their capabilities are good, in particular Rutabi, but it's their ability to be at a certain points level and give you a certain level of army slots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was always a problem in that list with, you ended up with this problem where you filled up a certain number of slots, and then you just had enough points left over to get like the other captain to get more slots, but not enough points to fill it. And I think in that list that I put together, I think this was at 700. I think I used Rutabi, Borgir, and Kamul on Fellbeast. And I ended up finally looking at the list and going, I have a decent number of figures with a decent number of fighting power in this army. And now I'm excited to kind of see how this, because obviously what you're doing is you're replacing Kamul with this guy. And I'm excited to see, what that's going to do. And I think what we need to do, Tim, is if you want to scroll down, we need to look at the hints that they gave us here as to how he's played and what his special rules are, so we can engage in wild speculation about those
The best
rules.
kind.
Well, so it's funny you mentioned that. I was actually just reading over a couple things. So like the first thing obviously has Elven Maid, so that's obviously going to be great.
Well, hang on a second. Let's see. Why don't we start at the beginning and go through this in order?
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, you can go down to where they're talking about his characteristics, but the first thing is, he says, far from just a political figure. So I guess, he's not Vladimir Putin. He's not, back in, he's not back in the palace directing everything from afar and railing feudally at his incompetent generals. The Dragon Emperor is an incredibly lethal combatant in his own right, which, I'm wondering whether he is fight 6 or fight 5 at this point.
He's got to be fight 6.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he wasn't fight 6.
I don't know though. I wouldn't be surprised if he was fight 5. I get what you're saying, but I would not be surprised that he's fight 5 if he had like a bunch of rules around him, kind of like a hybrid kind of thing.
Yeah, Tim, I think I'm on your side. I think, although I suppose I wouldn't be shocked if he came out as fight 6.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
My money is on fight 5.
If you had an army where you can combine him, Amdur, and Rutabi, 3 fight 6, 2 with Elven Maid, that would just be that.
That would be pretty scary, wouldn't it?
That would be. That's what I'm thinking, because I know there's going to be a sweet legion and stuff like this, but those players like Matt and I who already play Easterlings, like I'm thinking of like adding Amdur into the list with him, Rutabi, and just like an Easterling, like just those 3 in general. It's just disgusting. Like,
well, I mean, you could get what? So if he takes 18, you take Amdur with 15, and Rutabi, she's 12. Is that correct?
She's 15.
Oh, she is 15. So you could have 48 Easterlings, up to 48 Easterlings, which could.
And I think like with all the upgrades to the Black Dragon Knights, and you can bring Cav and a drum, you have 48 with 3 heroes and be really competitive.
Yeah. I mean,
my money's on fight 6 though, because it says few can best him.
Yeah,
right?
I just was looking at that and I was like, maybe that does mean 6.
Imagine,
especially because Amdur and Rutabi are 6. I kind of feel like that's the theme they're going for with Easterlings. And if he's the top of the pyramid and few can best him, my money's on fight 6.
I know this won't happen. I'm not saying it will, but just imagine if, based on that description, he was fight 7. I mean, that'd be the.
I think.
Oh my gosh!
Oop! Did it pause?
I'm sorry. All right. So I think.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he was fight 7. I would not be shocked
because they said you can best
6.
You can best him, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, but still.
I know they're doing like because he shouldn't be fight 7. And it wouldn't make sense for him to be fight 7, but it would be really cool if he was fight 7.
Yeah.
Just because it would be
if he was fight 7, I think Matt and I would just start having heart attacks.
Yeah.
Like all the Easterling players would be like, they gave us it and more. Like, yes.
I think you'd
also
have to put out a video of just me like lining up all my Gondor models and lighting them on fire as I pick up Easterlings. So
I think also if he was fight 7 along with the other bonuses you're going to get out of him, I suspect he is going to end up being like 300 points. So, he'd be priced off of the table.
The reason I think he's going to be fight 5 though is I think that they're basically setting him up to be a really good at everything, not great at anything. You know what I mean? Like he'll be. I think, in my personal opinion, he'll be. We've talked about this a little bit. We think he'll be about 200 points was our estimate. We don't know that for sure, of course, but that's what we were thinking, is he might be about 200 points. And if he is close to that, I think he might be fight 5, 3 attacks. Maybe I'll have a huge banner. Rob was mentioning that possibly like a battlefield wide banner, which would be just incredible to have.
Well, let's before we go into that, let's break down. Let's continue along the little blurb here.
Okay.
And untangle the clues. So, all right. So they do say he's going to be Hero of Legends. So that's fine. So 18 models, we know what that's going to be.
Mhm.
And he has the Elven Maid Emperor's Glaive, deflecting attacks and striking back in equal measure. So what does that mean? All right. So we know it's a glaive. Is it going to be like an Elven glaive where you can use it as a spear or an Elven blade, or you can, you can shield?
Well,
Or
Maybe
is there
he can
something
shield.
more there?
He can shield, and then if he wins the shielding, he can strike.
well,
That's what I was thinking, kind of like Arolas does, where he can
Mhm.
shield and then still make a strike if he wins.
but they say in equal measure. So what that means to me is that if you have someone who fights with 3 attacks, you get 3 strikes back. So
That would be insane.
that's what.
Or what if he combat mimicries?
Ooh.
So what I wonder if, for example, let's say a 3 attack hero goes in, you choose to use the glaive, and let's say it lets you shield, and maybe you can choose however many attacks at strength 2, so it doesn't do as much damage, but you can still get a lot of attacks in while shielding. Because if someone attacks at strength 4, you shouldn't get 3 attacks to go at strength 4, because why wouldn't you just shield the entire time and just try to win that way?
Like
Because
forever.
It's got to be some downside, but if they gave him the ability to shield the same amount of attacks at a lower strength, I think it can be just as good, and it really makes you choose if you want to just shield or actually attack.
Yeah, I frankly do not know what they're talking about here. I'm curious to find out, but I don't know what that Emperor's Glaive does. I think the simple answer is it's like it's like the Mirkwood Elven Glaive, but you're right. That deflecting attacks and striking back in equal measure is tantalizing but cryptic.
It could also be a total red herring, right? Like, and it just means literally it's like
Curse them at GW with their red herrings.
I wonder
if it'll be. I choose to believe it's not.
You think it would be like an active ability? I know it's an equipment, so I don't know that it would be, but sometimes they have equipment, right, that is active and passive. And I wonder if it would be.
I can't see how it's not active if it's
it would have to be active, right? There's no way that they would give that passive.
But who knows?
Another option could be, I forget who has this rule, but one of the orcs has a rule where if you win a fight against them and you miss your strike, they get to hit you.
Sharku, yeah.
Is that Sharku? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something like that, where it's, for every strike against him you miss, he gets to punch you.
Yeah, could be that.
It could. I wonder though how expensive he will be, and if he will look. Yeah, I want him to like lean heavy on one thing at least, because I don't want him to be kind of like a Gandalf the White, to where he has so many abilities, but he's super expensive.
He's going to have a lot of abilities, and he's going to be super expensive. And the question is going to be whether the abilities warrant it.
Do you guys agree that a named character though should be that kind of concept where like they're not in the books, kind of? You know what I mean? Like Kamula is mentioned in the books, and he has a profile that reflects a high profile thing. Do you guys agree with it? Let's say he was 200 points. Do you agree with the concept of essentially a made up character being this strong?
I do.
You mean like Bolg?
I do.
or Azog?
I do because here's the thing, like the Easterlings were so much in the books, or they were in the book so much more so than the movies, and they were known for being like warlike fanatics who could like come and just destroy Gondor. And also they did brush up, or they did touch a lot on the war in the north, and the Easterlings beat the crap out of the dwarves in the Men of Dale. So I feel like because that's the thing, it gives them a little liberty to be like, oh, here's the emperor, here's the biggest boss of the Easterlings who like mop the floor with people. So that's why I'd be like, yeah, that's okay.
So I'm okay with it in this case specifically. I wish they'd do it less in other cases, but kind of to what you said, like the Easterlings were always the other big major superpower of the, realms of men and Middle Earth in the East. And so I kind of see this as the, Easterling Aragorn equivalent, where it's, their high king. He's almost mythical in his abilities and his ability to rally his people and his combat prowess. So in this particular sense, because the Easterlings have always been kind of a mirror to Gondor, that's the other superpower of the land, it makes a little bit more sense to me within kind of the structure of the game and the lore. So I have less of a problem with it for Easterlings than I would that if this was just like a random character somewhere else almost.
I wonder also if they're doing some thinking ahead, because the Easterlings were in the Second Age, and this is an unnamed guy. There was no doubt an Easterling emperor in the Second Age, and I wonder if they are thinking ahead that this is somebody who would be useful, if the rights to the Rings of Power figures ever come along.
I actually, Rob,
Possible.
you made a really good point to me with the whole, Aragorn-esque figure. Do you think he becomes a named? Because if he's not named, you could take multiple. Whether or not you would want to take multiple, but theoretically, if he's not named,
well, I mean, he is the Dragon Emperor, so I don't
Yeah.
think you can take multiple. I mean, when I say he's not named, I mean, he's like the Goblin King, where
Yeah.
Or the Spider Queen.
exactly. There's only one of them, but there's only one of them at a time.
Yeah.
That there isn't,
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that for rights purposes they can give him a specific name, maybe, but it's clearly meant. Maybe he.
Well, they gave
Even if they
Rotavia-
could, it's a
they gave
title that you
Rotavia
assume, right?
name.
So
Okay. The next part of this description says his palanquin is carried by 6 members of the elite Black Dragons who can all get a few swings in of their own.
oh,
Their strengths and discipline makes them palanquin a sturdy fighting platform for the Emperor, who uses his vantage point to command the Easterlings with greater finesse. There's so much in that small little bit. It's unbelievable. Like
Let's unpack it.
uh-huh.
Yeah, guys. Oh my gosh, it's like we're all studying the Torah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
This
That
is
is
my
amazing.
Kabbalah.
Yeah, you're about to be bar mitzvah, Tim.
so let's go by the first one first. 6 members of the elite Black Dragons. So first thing, obviously 6 people, which we believe will mean we'll talk about it later, but basically you can disperse them into 6 models. So you're already getting 6 models right there. What interests me is they underline the elite Black Dragons, which makes me think they might have a better profile than regular Black Dragons. What are you guys?
I don't think
thoughts
so
on
because
that?
it's not capitalized. So
Yeah.
the elite black dragon, I think they are though hinting that the black dragons will be better with the Legion.
Okay.
I think that's what they mean by elite black dragons, because I mean they're new models specific for them.
All right.
Yeah, they're the elite of the Easterling warriors, is what I think they're trying to say.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
exactly that. So there's 6 of them who can all get a few swings of their own in. So I think what you're going to see is not 9 attacks on this, not 3 from the guy on top and 6 from the guys. I think what you're going to get is you're going to get a rider mount situation where you get to choose one or the other. So I think you're going to get like whatever his fight value is, and I think you're going to get a mount that is fight 4 6 attacks. I think that's what you're going to get.
Which would be so. Just imagine
Makes
you
sense.
run Amdur in to get that fight 6, and then you get 6 attacks with that would be, and then you trap him. That model is gone. 12 attacks.
Mhm.
Or this guy's like with Rutabi and like a phalanx line.
Now,
like,
Matt,
just, like, crazy.
Now I know that it's an elven maid, but what would special weapon attack would it get because it's a glaive? Does it get it's a sword?
It's the spear or elven blade.
Elven blade,
how
so it's a
usually
sword.
is.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I suspect it's going to be one of these things like the Watcher in the Water, because you have 6 guys. It's going to the Palanquin's going to have 6 wounds, and every time one of the guys goes down, it loses an attack.
Here's where I
That's
think it'll
what
be
think,
interesting.
actually. I'd agree with that.
I wonder, with the shield rule that they have in the army, if you have a model in base contact with it, does it go up a defense? You know what I mean? Because they already have that.
I can't imagine this thing has shield wall.
I mean, it would be.
Or I can't imagine that.
Or what if the defense is based on how many models are left? So, for example, if there's 6 models, it's defense 6. If it's
I mean, I suspect it's going to be defense 6, because you see how it's got all those shields that are modeled on the
yeah.
You just scroll up. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a heavy armor shield thing. So it's going to be it is going to be defense 6 wounds. And every time it loses a guy, the number of attacks goes down.
Yeah. Now I have a question because like of course these images, they're zooming up on him. He looks amazing. They're giving some detail with the dragons, but they also zoom up and take a picture of the banner. What do you guys think the battlefield effects will be, or bubble effects, or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, also it's got the language of the emperor who uses his vantage point to command the Easterlings with greater finesse. And I don't know what that means.
I mean, I kind of read that as master of battle, but Rutabi already has that. So
I actually was wondering about that too, whether that's a master of battle situation.
I wonder if it's, and this is a really stupid idea, but it's just it's based on, it wouldn't really make any sense. But I wonder if it's the ability to seek out things that can't normally be seen. It's like you have a higher vantage point. So, for example, if something has like an elven cloak, you're able to see them, and
But he gets that anyway, just by nature of having the higher vantage point. He doesn't need a special rule for that.
I have a cool idea though, which would be cool if he had will points, and if he can see somebody, one of his units or heroes, he can spend a will point to up their fight or up their attacks battlefield wide. That would be super cool.
Well, like
that's possible, but isn't there something? I think there's something later on that's going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah. So
well, the other thing I thought it could be is that his heroics have an extended range. So like if he calls a move, it's a longer move, right?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Because he could see more people and they can see him, and he can shout further. So something like that.
That would be interesting. Like he gives almost like a war drum effect on top, so like they can move 12 inches.
Right. So it's like a war drum for when he,
a war drum plus a march. That'd be really interesting if you could kind of.
It's kind of interesting though, because like there's gonna be so many cool rules, but Rutabi already gets Master of Battle, and you already get a drum for cheap in the army list.
Okay.
So I would hope that this would offer something else.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting. I mean, which does. I mean, look, you've already got what's his name? In the Iron Hills, you've got Master of Battle on Dane, and you've got Master of Battle on the Captain. So it's not unprecedented to have multiple layers of Master of Battle.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of interested with the Rob, what you were saying about he gets extended range heroics. Like he has a heroic move that affects everybody within 12.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
End within 12. Or something like that. That'd be fun and new.
Yeah, that would be cool. And it would also carry over in alliances where you're not taking the drum, which is another thing.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to first of all, we'll talk about the foot model real quick, and then we'll get into the next.
Wait a second.
His standfast is battlefield wide.
Yeah. Well, no, we still have dialogue here. He still has.
Yeah. We have another line of the Torah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's
you should know that.
All right. So the next little section, basically, fighting alongside the Emperor in the flesh is a proud moment for Rune's warriors who dare not disgrace themselves when in his sight. His standfast action reaches Easterlings across the entire board, including Easterling heroes. So it doesn't just say heroes; it's Easterling heroes. And any nearby units able to see, it does say, and any nearby units able to see the majestic royal palanquin fight harder in its presence. So essentially, it'll only give the standfast to Easterling heroes for heroes specifically, but it does say any nearby units, implying that if you allied with Mordor and you had orcs, it will do battlefield wide. So if you added this to, let's say, a Mordor force that kind of struggles with standfast, this could theoretically give a standfast across the entire battlefield.
So I'm going to posit an alternative interpretation here.
Okay.
And that is, I mean, I don't think you're wrong that his stand fast action reaches Easterlings across the entire board, including Easterling heroes. So that much is clear. But then you've got this dash followed by an and any nearby units able to see the majestic royal palanquin fight harder in his presence. I think that's a different rule. I don't think that's stand fast.
No, I think
probably
that's
a banner.
I think it's a banner effect of some kind, but like a really long one, right?
Like a 12-inch or like.
I see what you're saying. Well, now, what I'm curious about is, do you think he gives, let's say, a 3-inch, maybe if he's that good, a 6-inch +1 fight value within 6 inches?
I am really hoping for a +1 fight value.
That would be amazing.
I am really hoping that this is like the Banner of Gondor type thing, where it is a banner that gives +1 fight value within 6 inches or something. Like
if you had a black dragon, if you have a black dragon, goes for 5.
Roll over fiefdom list, roll over like Rohan list. Like, ooh.
Well, okay, so I think that definitely this is going to be one of those like banners that are faction level banners, right? So like you have the Royal Standard of Rohan, you have the banner of Arwen Evenstar, and the banner of Minas Tirith. So it's going to be in the class of those, which is awesome to begin with, no matter what it does. But +1 fight would be incredible.
Yeah, so +1 fight is actually kind of what this list needs, because that has always been, fight 5 has always been the bane of this list, where you have your 3 ranks of very expensive troops, one of which is fight 4, so they're all fight 4, and then they go slamming into 2 ranks of something that ends up being fight 5, and they still lose, and then they die. Fight 5 just munches through this list, because I mean this list depends on a whole lot of lots of dice versus lots of dice things, and whoever has the higher fight value dominates that fight. And I think if you give these guys fight 5, like basically if it's a +1 to fight value, so the black dragons are suddenly going up to 5, then that is a real boon to this army and gives them something they don't have.
Now, I'm gonna put this out there just because I know that there are a lot of people, specifically, elf people, who get really upset that there's becoming much more fight 5 available for troops. Are you guys pro or not really? Are you guys pro or not a fan of the concept of more and more troops being able to get fight 5, which was essentially the whole point of having elves in the first place? Was that they had that high fight value to outfight basic warriors.
I feel like you go first, Matt. Sorry.
No, go ahead. After you.
Thank you. No, you go. Look, we're both Canadian.
No.
Okay. No, you go. Rob's like, I'll go.
This is a Canadian and a British guy standing outside the same door, and like both of them will stand there forever.
That's a Dr. Seuss cautionary tale.
Yeah, go first, Rainier.
Well, I feel like the meta the releases, I guess, have been built in that direction. You see it with defense. So certain things are defense 7. Oh, no, everything's defense 7 or 6. It's going up. The fight is the same. You got these certain armies that can get fight 5, then they dominate most. And you're like, oh, let's balance the field. Gondor can get fight 5. Fiefdoms get fight 5 really easily. Let's make this fight 5. And it's just kind of like a building. So I can see how elf players are upset about that. But also the elves, they're all going to the Undying Lands. Like they can. You can tell I'm not an elf player.
The elves can get fight 6 now. So.
Well, no, but I guess the best way to put it in is yes, elf players specifically are upset because of course, they like to play the elves. But I guess from as an unbiased opinion as you can get, do you think it's fair that a bunch of armies are fighting as well as these elves at realistically close to the same cost, and a lot of them
who are we talking about here in this bunch of armies?
Let's break this down. So to my knowledge, Gondor conditionally, if you take the banner, and fiefdoms if you have Imrahil near the right kind of troop. But like who else has easy access to fight 5 besides elves?
Isn't there? I swear there's at least one more. I can't.
I guess that's true. I think, and you see so much Fight 5 enlist because people ally.
Maybe that's what it might be. It might be because
Yeah.
there's so much fight. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. So perhaps there's not as much.
There's not, yeah.
It's just
I don't think it's
taken
baked
so
in
often.
very often.
No, I guess
Yeah.
the best way I put it is that people are using it so much to try as get as much of a competitive edge as possible. Where
Yeah.
you know, and I guess the best way for me to put this is even if there isn't many choices that can do it, are you okay with more and more, because it is increasing over time, models being able to get to the same level as basic elf warriors for the same cost? So we'll take, for example, the Galadrim. Let's say a Galadrim with shield is what, 10 points? And if you had the banner effect, of course, you have to be in range to get the fight 5. But for 9 points, 8 points with a shield, you know, you can basically get the same effect as an elf.
I too totally I understand what you're saying. I agree. I think they're balancing it away from that because we look at the two abuses of it. It's the Fountain Court Guard, which are like 10 points. You can get Fight 5 really easily in
11,
Bodyguard.
but yeah.
And it's the Rohan Royal Guard who can go up to Fight 5 too with the special rules, who are like
That's right.
really uncostly. So those are the two things that poke out to me. The theme of the new releases, Dunlin Huskarls are hecka expensive and they're not that good. So I feel like even if these guys can go up to Fight 5, GW knows not to have those kind of holes in lists to make them decently pointed to where it's actually fair playing field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but okay. So I'm going to throw one more perspective, and then we'll kind of. I think we should.
Well,
continue.
I've got some thoughts on it too. Tim.
Yeah.
Go
Well.
ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll finish up, and then Rob, you can.
Yeah.
So the last point I'll make is all of those armies we listed that are Fight 5 are all good armies. Now we have an evil army that has that ability, and I think a lot of players, especially with the new way that Galadriel came out, where it kind of nerfed a lot of good armies, and now you're improving evil armies even more. I think people might find the balance is really starting to head towards evil armies now, because it'll become one of those things where, well, what does good do much better than evil that makes them worth taking over evil in this scenario?
I think you can, if these guys can go up to Fight 5, that's great. But I think in almost all good lists, you can ally Fight 5 quite easily still. I think the conversation, though, is an American conversation because most of us and the competitive players do play evil. But I don't think that's like a wide thing, because you go to Europe and you do see a lot of people doing really well with good lists, even outside of Galadriel. I mean, look at the Battle of the Five Armies list. Like, that's crazy synergies and really, really good and stuff. So I don't think it will unbalance it too much. I just think in the States, you have all the like top players playing evil as is.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I also am perfectly happy with having one evil Fight 5 option that is not, half trolls.
yeah.
Right.
Nobody's
It'll
ever
probably
gonna
be a Legion too, so I don't think it'll be something you can ally all over the place.
So
What
Rob,
were you going to say, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand what you, or I guess whoever you were talking to about this, is saying, but I actually don't think that it is quite so overblown, because in Gondor, to get Fight 5, you're taking at minimum a 10-point troop, but it's usually going to be an 11-point Fountain Court Guard, and you have to tag that onto a 200-something point hero and have proximity. So there's a lot of conditionality there. In Rohan, you take a 15 to 17 point Cav model who has to be with a certain hero and has to be conditional upon charging and being in proximity. So like you actually have to work for that. And then I imagine if this guy does do something of that same effect, it's going to be very similar, right? There's going to be a proximity. He's going to be a 200 point hero. A black dragon with a pike who's going to be able to get within range of that effect is 11 plus points, right? With fiefdoms, it's a 3-inch range.
He costs as much as an elf, so why shouldn't he fight as well as an elf?
Well, and I mean, and like with fiefdoms, you have to be within 3 inches of a 200-ish point hero with, somewhere between a 9 or 12 point model, whereas like elves just have it all the time. And all 3 elf armies have access to Fight 6. So like they can put Fight 6 to fight any so-called proliferation of it. I think that I don't think that it's nearly as widespread or as overblown to be threatening to elf players. If anything, I think elves are undercosted for bringing fight 5 with spears everywhere they want and good bows, right?
Yeah,
So I don't think it's actually going to do anything bad for the game. And in fact, I think it's going to give evil something unique that it hasn't had to this point in the game that will actually be kind of interesting and healthy for the meta.
It is a good point because like as is, we always compare the overcost of Easterlings. A black dragon is like 11 points.
Yeah.
And it has, for the same price or even cheaper, you can get an elf for higher defense, more courage,
Right.
woodland creature special rule and stuff like that. So I think just
Elven
the
Blade
idea
built in.
Yeah, the idea that like that same cost model, the same cost as an elf, can go up to fight 5 on a special occasion. I don't think that's going to overblow it because still less courage, still they don't have like Woodland Realm, still like all these other things. And like everyone says, it's conditional to this list and probably to the heroes.
It's conditional to a very specific set of circumstances, whereas elves just exist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch, we're having this huge debate and this thing's going to come out and we're going to discover that the fight harder in his presence means that they get to reroll ones when they are rolling to wound.
they all faint.
Yay.
Yeah, we're like, ooh, exactly what we wished for. He'll be fight 4 also.
Yeah. Because let's remember, folks,
I'll be an exact
the
replica.
Easterlings we're talking about here.
He's not actually a fighter. He's the guy in the chair, right?
Rainier, he'll be an exact copy of Golden King.
Yeah, and then of FAQs, every other FAQ just like knocking him down
Yeah.
to where he's irrelevant. And you're like, oh, this $200 model that I just bought.
All right. So what are thoughts on the foot model here in front of us?
Oh, it's terrible. Throw it away.
Yeah, it's horrible. Send it to me.
Yeah, that's right. I'll
Do
figure out
people like
something
the
to
way
do.
that he's holding the glaive? Is there something, some kind of you like the cape, the way it's like flowing like that? Is there anything you wish that would have been a little bit better, or you really happy with the model?
I think I would like personally, I just love models that look like they're directing, like especially if they're generals and stuff like that. So I would probably prefer the on foot model to be just the one that's on top. I'd want 2 of those. But this probably tells me that he's kind of combat-y if he has a really combat-y stance on foot. So it's cool. I like the other one, the one where he's mounted a little better. But yeah, I would assume based off the stance, he's pretty combat-y.
Yeah, I'm assuming that once he's knocked off his Palanquin, it's like, all right, it's no longer time to direct. It's time to lead. So
yeah, like who scratched up my Lexus?
That's right.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a director, I'm an actor. And he starts just
I'm the Emperor Nada.
Okay.
I almost feel like this pose should be a part of like a diorama, like a fight scene diorama. Right?
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's missing someone in front of him that is going to slot into a base that's going to be kind of like the Thor and Azog diorama because it's such a intense, specific look. I think it's very cool.
So, the last thing I was going to say,
the helmet looks so cool. I know I said it before, but oh my gosh.
The last thing I was going to say is, the text that's underneath this is interesting. Should his fancy ride be destroyed or voluntarily abandoned, the Dragon Emperor continues on foot with his remaining black dragons in tow. They don't count as any choices for his warband either, allowing him to mass a huge number of troops in one well-defended place. So
he leads basically 24 models.
He can lead 24 models. The interesting part about this, his remaining black dragons in tow seems to indicate that these guys do get killed off as part of the process of
which supports what you were saying, Matt, earlier.
Yeah.
Like the tentacle kind of thing. Like,
yeah, exactly that.
That said, though, like that Palanquin better be real good so that you're not immediately like, I'm just going to dismount and get 6 free black dragons for my army.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure that Palanquin is some sort of big banner effect thing.
Yeah, it better be real good because that's what, like 66 points of free models to give him 24 in his warband. That's pretty cool.
I mean, on the other hand, it's a 60 mil model with 6 attacks. So
that's true.
It's nothing to shake a stick at either.
I think what we're going to find with this army, and I think a lot of people have known this over time, is we're really going to see a heavy mass defense 6, defense 7 type army now with Easterlings, because the heroes are relatively cost effective. Maybe not the new one but obviously I forget her name. What's the new the girl that just came out again?
Rutabi.
Rutabi's pretty cost effective for what she does. I still think Amder is pretty good for his points as well, to be honest with
I
you.
love Amder.
Yeah, Amder's amazing.
Yeah.
because he's mounted too, and now you don't have to worry about him getting wounded and losing those general points.
I think you add those two together, you got two great fighting heroes. You add a third model like this into your list, even though he may be expensive, realistically, you're looking probably at most at 370 points. And if you assume that you got 48 models, realistically, they're 8 and 9 points respectively without any Black Dragon upgrades. I mean, that's 408 points. You still have 22 points to play with at 800 points. So you can really max out the war bands. And then, we talked about the extra 6 models. There's 54 warriors with 3 heroes. You're at 57 models right there if you wanted to. It is really good.
Well, if you could afford it. If he's a 200-point model, you're not going to be able to get to 57 models.
Well, no, I just did the math though, because if you took no Black Dragon upgrades, which I'm not saying you would, but you'd have 22 points left over. It's 102 points for a warband of 12. So times that by 4 is 408. And if we did the basic math, which we just did, assuming it's 200 points, it would be, let's see, she's 110, correct?
Yeah.
Plus 110, and Rutabi is 80, so that's 190. So it's probably going to be
Rutabi's 110.
Borgir
is 80.
Borgir is 80, so that's 190 with the two of them. And then or were you I'm sorry.
I was going without Borgir. I was saying
I see. All right. All right, I got you.
Amder, the Emperor, and Rutabi.
Amder too? Oh wow. So that's 110. Amder is
145 on the horse.
145 and
so 255. So actually you're right.
455 points.
My bad. I apologize. I messed up by 100. My bad. So actually you would get less. You probably get like 35, 36 maybe.
I think though, like we've talked about Easterlings in the past. Ooh, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We've talked about Easterlings in the past. The only thing going for them was movement. And I feel like that still goes for them really well. And you could have won with them in the past or done well with them in the past. But now they have hero power hitting. They have more battlefield control. And it's just like the movement, the master of battle, and like whatever effects this gives. For the Easterling playstyle, the player who plays in the movement phase and positions pretty well, I'm thinking like Matt. Like if I saw Matt with this army, I would be terrified.
By the way, you probably will see Matt with this.
Actually, I think I'm retired.
You're probably going to see everyone on this chat right now.
I've got Rutabi and Borgir sitting on my painting table as we speak.
Yeah, I have. I just traded
somewhere in the post. So
in America, I'm going to pick it up from Jesse. Like I have all of the Easterling metal 2 ready to go. Then I'm going to get this guy, the 2 heroes, and then all the Black Dragon Knights. And I think that's going to be like.
I've got like 3 or 4 war bands of them, and then like no heroes. But the other model I think we keep forgetting about, because I know that there's a lot of good heroes in we're forgetting about Kamul. We can take Kamul in this to really kind of give you that hitting power from the dragon plus the flight, So it's not like you can't take. There's a lot of options now, whereas before there were really only like a few. So this is really doing something.
I agree with you. Kamul and Amder to list is really good. I do think though this guy is going to be like.
Oh, there's going to be a priority.
In the Legion. You know what I mean?
You're not going to have. You're not going to.
He's the Legion
boy. Kamul and this guy in
the
same list.
I agree.
Unless it's 1,000 points.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for tuning in this week. As always, leave any comments about lists you'd like for us to review, as well as any ideas you'd like for us to discuss. We're always looking to discuss things that you may be interested in hearing. We also have Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you'd rather just listen to us than watch us on YouTube. And we hope you guys have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.